What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Justin here as always. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me today. We're going to be talking about House of the Dragon, the prequel spin-off series to the original Game of Thrones series. It's actually been a couple weeks since I posted on this channel. I haven't been completely inactive though. Me and my Rad Pack buddies, Mel from My Killer Podcast, Garrett from Born to Be Rad, we did an episode of our podcast called The Spooky Movies That Made Us. We each picked 9 movies that we all used to watch around Halloween time, the spooky movies that made us, like the title says.
Uh-oh, Justin's laughing down there. Wait.
What the hell?
Is this Ken? Are you Ken mid-level?
Did mid-level bust our stream?
Some of these are Halloween specials, kids shows, horror movies, fantasy movies. We talked about so many amazing flicks. Aside from the main 9 we picked, that we sparked off into tangents, that we talked about other movies. We had some honorable mentions. It was such a fun stream. We dressed up and did costumes for it. I love doing these streams with my Rad Pack homies. I'm gonna link that episode down below. What a great time it was. Check out our other episodes. I'll link a few more of those down below. That's what I've been up to lately, but now we're gonna talk about House of the Dragon because I've been chomping at the bit to talk about this show.
Now they see you as you are.
This review won't have any spoilers in it. I'm not going to spoil anything in here because, quite frankly, there's just so much going on in this show. It's so dense with characters and stories that I'm not even going to dive into many of the characters or plots. I'm just going to give my overall thoughts and compare it a little bit to the original series, although they are quite different. They're different and the same, if that makes sense. If you've seen both of them, you know what I'm saying. So I, like a lot of folks, was pretty disappointed with season 8, but it didn't destroy my whole memory of the entire original Game of Thrones series. I still think it is the best television show that's ever been made. It's up there with, I love Lost and I love Breaking Bad. Say what you will about Lost, I fucking love that show. But Breaking Bad is right up there. Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones are pretty head-to-head, is my opinion, for the best show of all time. It was just, but the original Game of Thrones was so amazingly epic. We had never seen anything like that, with a story that expansive and all of these amazing visuals and fantasy aspects to it. It was just such an incredible show. I didn't watch it as it premiered. I actually started watching it a few seasons in, so I just binged the hell out of the first few seasons. I remember doing 8, 9, 10-hour sessions just watching episode after episodes, making every episode obviously a cliffhanger, so you just have to keep watching. If you haven't seen the original series of Game of Thrones though, you can watch House of the Dragon. It's a prequel series, so it's not going to spoil anything. The episodes of the new series take place 200 years before House of the Dragon, so if you do find yourself wanting to watch House of the Dragon, or if you've already watched it, go ahead and watch the original series because it'll just be all in chronological order. But going back to the original series, they did shit the bed a little bit with season 8. I won't say a little bit, a lot. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. They dropped the ball and condensed the season into less episodes when it should have been more. It just really tainted the legacy of Game of Thrones. It didn't ruin the series, but it definitely didn't taint the legacy a little bit, and it definitely hurts on the rewatch, because if you want to go back and watch Game of Thrones again, you just have in your mind the ending that just isn't that great. But if you haven't seen the original series, please do not let all of the critiques and all of the bad press surrounding that final season deter you from watching Game of Thrones, because there is dozens of amazing episodes that happened before season 8 that you will be truly missing out on. You'll be doing yourself a huge disservice if you do not watch Game of Thrones because of bad things you've heard about season 8. I was a little skeptical going on to House of the Dragon, being that it was a spin-off show. Is this going to be a cash grab? Is this going to be sloppily thrown together? You know, who is the team that's throwing this together, because they hadn't done a whole lot before House of the Dragon. But once I started watching these first few episodes of this new series, all of those doubts and apprehensions were laid to rest, because this show, House of the Dragon, is, and this is just my opinion, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts down below, in my opinion, is every bit as good as the original first season. I don't know how the rest of the whole show is going to go, but if you go head to head with Game of Thrones season 1 and House of the Dragon season 1, they're different in many ways, but they're equal in terms of quality, production value, costumes, set design, all of that shit, and in some aspects even exceed the first season in my opinion, because I love all this nerdy dragon shit. And there is never in the history of cinema ever been dragons put to screen and had epic dragon sequences like there are in this new series. All of the actors chosen, the casting is absolutely incredible. Maybe if you thought some of the performances were a little hammy in the first series, this new series actually did great casting and the performances are great. What's different about this new season, the House of the Dragon show, it's a much more contained story, at least in this first season. As opposed to venturing outside of the castles and having all these epic adventures and meeting all these new characters, we're really following just a couple families and their inner workings as they scramble to pick the heir to the throne. Who is going to be the heir should something happen to the current king, with all these different kids and all these different people fighting for the throne. And this is a much more contained story as it mostly takes place within the castle walls, in the corridors, in bedrooms. It's very, very dialogue heavy. There were a couple parts where I felt it was a little slow, but it's always moving towards something. All of the dialogue scenes mean something to the bigger picture of the whole story. One of the interesting things that they've done with this show is they had a massive time jump. So the characters that you get to know in those first few episodes are played, the characters are still there, but they're played by different actresses many years older. The two main characters that we follow, especially in the first few episodes, are Rhaenyra and Alicent, and they're initially played by Millie Alcock and Emily Carey, and I really fell in love with both of those characters. It was kind of, there was an innocence to it because they were so young and you watch them sort of growing up, and then there's this massive time jump, and Alicent is played by Olivia Cooke and Rhaenyra is played by Emma Darcy. So when this big time jump happened, I really wasn't sure what I was thinking about these new actresses taking on those roles because it is a bit jarring. There's a couple time jumps in here that some people probably didn't like, but I will say Emma Darcy, who plays Princess Rhaenyra, when I wasn't sure with her at the first few episodes after the time jump, by the end of it, I fell in love with her character, and she was just absolutely amazing in this role. And Olivia Cooke, who I haven't seen in a whole lot, she is absolutely beautiful in the show. Good Lord, she is fucking beautiful. She may have been cast a little young. I think both of these actors probably were cast, at least they look really young, but I guess back in the day, in these days where you're, you know, having kids with your cousins and shit, you were probably doing it when you were 17 years old and shit. So all the performances are amazing. King Viserys is played by Paddy Considine, who also, to be honest, when I first started watching the show, I wasn't sure if I was feeling him as the king, but he really grew on me. Any performances or roles that I didn't think were that great cast, or maybe I didn't like that much, by the end of the first season, this first season of House of the Dragon, I ended up just falling in love with. The casting is perfect in this show. When it comes to the critiques of this first season, there is some wonky CGI with the flying dragons, kind of the same issues that they had in the original Game of Thrones. When they're on top of Dragonback and they're flying through the air, it still doesn't look quite right. The dragons look good from the wide shots, but once they get the close-ups of them flying, it still looks a little wonky. I wish they could make that look a little bit better, but they're dealing with, you know, they can't spend all their money on that. And at times, another negative is it is really fucking hard to keep track of all these characters. As with the first season, I remember watching the first few episodes of the original series, having to look up names constantly, and I was doing that a lot kind of throughout this whole House of Dragon, because there are time jumps, there are so many kids. Every character, I swear, is always pregnant in the show. Somebody's having a goddamn baby in every episode of this show. They're just pumping out kids, and once the kids start stacking up, it's kind of hard to keep track of all of them, but if you pay attention, you can figure it out. But I absolutely loved this series. It's truly amazing that they were able to make something that is, in my opinion, every bit as good as that first season of Game of Thrones. From here on out, I don't know where it's gonna go, but if you're a fan of Game of Thrones and you have not watched House of the Dragon, you're gonna like this. If you liked Game of Thrones, you will like this. There's gonna be plenty here for you. It's a little talky, a little more talky than the original series. There's not as much action for this first season, but the way they cliffhang this first season, their shit is about to pop off, and it's going to be crazy, and we're going to get all those battles. But I like all the table setting that they did with this first season. I think it was perfect. Starting out when these two princesses are just in their early teens, ending the season when they're in their 20s and shit is popping off and they've all had a bunch of kids and wrongs are being done, the classic Game of Thrones, deaths start happening, it is classic Game of Thrones. It's just a little bit different because it's more contained, but I actually like that. I felt more emotionally connected to a lot of these characters. So if you are a Game of Thrones fan, 100% you will be a fan of House of the Dragon. The dragon action is so fucking amazing. Some of the visuals in the show, like I said, look like a painting. It's some of the most beautiful shit I've ever seen. I said this about the original stuff in Game of Thrones. Some of these things in both of these series are things that I've just never seen put on screen before like this, and it's just stunning. The production design of these castles and all of these real candles everywhere, it's just, oh, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. I could go on and on, but I won't. I'm gonna stop here, guys. Do let me know in the comments down below what you think of this new season. Have you started watching it? What do you think of season 8 of the original Game of Thrones? What do you think of this season? Let me know in the comments below. It helps the algorithm, and I respond to every single comment if I can. So I look forward to chatting with you guys about Game of Thrones and many other movies in the future. So guys, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. I think we're done here. Stay weird. Remember to always be yourself, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Open the world of advanced Dungeons and Dragons action figures. Strongheart, Bronze Dragon, Morduk, Nightmare. Discover a world of mystery and magic.
Stand back, Strongheart. You shall never have this treasure.
Evil is no match for good until we meet again.
Advanced Dungeons and Dragons action figures from LJN. Pure magic.